Hello and welcome to the Van Gogh Gallery. Oh, yes. You enjoy this world. You support my in here. A little bit more. Alright. Thank you very much for visiting. This world features a total of 62 works by the artist Vincent van Gogh, exhibited across Gallery 1 through Gallery 4, plus special section. We invite you to take your time and immerse yourself in the world of Van Gogh, woven with his artworks as a vertical threads and words as a horizontal thread. This world is designed based on an avatar height of approximately 1.5. Become bigger than 1. Oh no. Change my avatar. One will do. Let us explore here. Verb? I'm not allowed to go there yet, unfortunately. This one I feel like is the start. Vincent van Gogh, before he became a painter, a youth of faith and struggle. In 1853, Vincent Willem van Gogh was born in a small village in the Netherlands, the eldest son of Theodorus, a pastor, and his mother Anna. It was not until his mid-20s that he decided to pursue the path of an artist. Until then, he tried various paths such as working as an art dealer or seeking a religious calling as a pastor. But none of this lasted as he had hoped. After many setbacks, Vincent finally discovered that painting was his true calling. In this gallery one, through the letters exchanged with his brother Theo, who supported him through his life, you can trace the story of how Vincent found his vocation as a painter. On March 30, 1852, exactly 1 year before the birth of the future painter Vincent van Gogh, his mother Anna gave birth to a baby boy who sadly died shortly after birth. Overwhelmed by deep sorrow, the couple, by a strange twist of fate, were blessed with another boy. Exactly 1 year later, on March 30, 1853, without hesitation, they gave this child the same name, Vincent, meaning conqueror, as the son they had lost. In his childhood, Van Gogh is said to have been a stubborn and difficult child from an early age. He often clashed with other children to the point that he was expelled from his local primary school. He preferred solitude, spending time alone, wandering the fields and hills, observing plants and insects. The one who supported this headstrong Vincent both financially and emotionally through his life was his younger brother, Theodorus van Gogh, better known as Theo. In the summer 1872, the two brothers, while walking along the country path, made a promise to each other that they would always help one another and keep in touch through letters. This vow was kept faithfully until the very moment of Vincent's death 18 years later. Van Gogh painted a rural church where his father served as a pastor, capturing it with his powerful brushstrokes. However, At the time, the church minister reportedly disapproved of Van Gogh's poor conduct and told the villagers not to pose in the models for his paintings. In 1876, Van Gogh, who spent his days deeply immersed in reading the Bible, decided to follow in his father's footsteps and become a pastor himself. However, he failed the entrance examination for the theological university, and that path was closed to him. His wish to become a soldier of God's word as an evangelist also went unfulfilled, and all hope of serving in the clergy was ultimately lost. Vacation leaving the Reformed Church in the end. Around this time, Van Gogh repeatedly depicted people who worked with their own hands, such as farmers, laborers laboring in the fields, and weavers at their looms. This work powerfully conveys Van Gogh's deep empathy for the lower class of laborers, expressed through his meticulous realism. Van Gogh laugh and his miserable makes-believe family. In the early days of his life as an aspiring artist, Van Gogh met a prostitute named Christine, commonly known as Cian, and began living with her. Cian had a 5-year-old child at the time and was also pregnant. Lonely and without a true place in the world, Van Gogh felt deep compassion for Cian, who was living as if she had been abandoned by society. Two began to live together almost like a married couple. However, poverty, Van Gogh's own illness, and Cian's repeated trouble strained their fragile arrangement. This pretend family did not last long and eventually fell apart. In 1883, Van Gogh ultimately left Cian and her children behind and set off to Drenton. It is said that after this, Cian continued to suffer from poverty and loneliness, and in the end, she took her own life by throwing herself into the harbor of Rotterdam. Sorrow. Oh, pray for her. And everyone who is going through something like this, you're not alone. This is a piece painted after the child Cian was carrying was born. I cannot live without love, nor do I wish to. I am a man, after all, a man with desire. Without a woman, I would turn to stone, it says. However, despite his desperate longing for love, Van Gogh was never able to find a true life partner through his entire life. Van Gogh has a deep interest in depicting the lives of the working poor, and this perspective remained a defining feature of his art through his life. This work shows people gathering at the public lottery booths in the rain. Van Gogh himself also struggled with poverty all his life, continuing his work with the financial support of his brother Theo. This big art. Look how much details are in each of them. This is a family. What is this art is about? They are having a dinner, have a tea. 4 cups of tea we only see, so one of them might not get one. Is this a sugar or just a regular food? Living quite happily. In this early masterpiece, Van Gogh painted people's hands with a strong awareness that they were hands that still tiled the earth. Very rough, weathered hands bear the weight of daily labor, and reflected his deep respect of those who work. as shown in the letter below. Works from this period are characterized by their muted brown tones. The oil painting of the potato eaters is very dark. While I was painting it, I kept thinking about what was once so aptly said about the peasants Millet painted. Millet's peasants seem to be painted with the very soil they till. Whenever I see them working, whether indoor or out, these words naturally come to mind. Letter 405, May 1885. Potato. This is a potatoes. Delicious. Van Gogh repeatedly sketched the figure of an old man covering his face with his eyes. His hands. About 8 years later, in 1890, just 2 months before his death, at the age of 37, he created an oil painting based off this work once again, starring old man. At Eternity's Gate is on a display gallery 4B. Oh no. Wow, the hands details are getting so good. The art itself. You're an artist and you can get inspired by this. I'm very happy. Because I am getting inspired and I'm not even an artist. I mean, I'm not painting anything. Over. This work is a study after the solver by Jean Francois Millet. I'm sorry if I butchered the name. Millet was an artist known for his depiction of peasant life and was one of the painters Van Gogh admired the most deeply. Through the biblical account of the sower and the lives of farmers he saw in the Netherlands, Van Gogh may have been profoundly drawn to the subject. I don't know what his job is supposed to be. Oh, he's doing the farming. Van Gogh saw more than simple labor in the image of farmers digging and turning the soil. For him, the act of tilling the earth evoked the story in Genesis, where Adam and Eve, cast out of paradise, toil and sweat as they work in the land. The Bible shown here is the one that, after his father's death, was meant to be inherited by his brother Theo. In the foreground, Émile Zola French novella Joy de Vivre, the joy of living, is placed, creating a sense of contrast between death and life. The extinguished candle, traditionally a symbol of transition, hints at Van Gogh's complex feelings about religion, making this particularly significant work. Van Gogh painted this work with a touch of irony towards the strict academic art training of his time, boldly exaggerating the complex form of the skeleton. As a lifelong smoker, Van Gogh's sense of humor can be glimpsed in this piece. This is called The Head of Skeleton with a Burning Cigarette. You can get the cigarettes here. We're no smokers. In spring, a bird in a cage knows perfectly well that it has something it is good for. It feels strongly that there is something it should do, but it cannot do. And so, it talks to itself. Other birds are building nests, laying eggs, and raising their young. Then it bangs its head against the bars of the cage. The cage remains unmoved, and the bird goes mad with a deep sorrow. I want to console people with my paintings, just as the music can offer consolation. I told myself, pick it up, the pencil, keep drawing, and from that moment, I felt as if everything had changed. Despite experiencing repeatedly failures and deep struggles, the many events Van Gogh went through during this time before becoming a painter became an essential part of understanding his later works. Failures and trials that might seem futile at the first were stored within him, becoming his lifeblood and eventually emerging on his canvases. In Gallery 2, you can trace the path of his evoking colors as he found his true calling as a painter. Whoa. Paris with Theo and the discovery of the light. In March 1886, Van Gogh visited his younger brother Theo, who was working as an art dealer in Paris, and the two began living together for what would become about 2 years. During this time in Paris, Van Gogh encountered Impressionism and Japanese ukiyo-e prints. As a result, the dark palettes of blacks and browns that had characterized his early Dutch works gradually gave way to a brighter, more vivid colors. Because they were living together, few letters remain from this period describing Van Gogh's impressions of this world of light. However, his surviving works vividly convey the enthusiasm with which he absorbed new techniques and the luminous color palettes of Impressionists. Interior of a restaurant, 1887. When Van Gogh moved to the Paris in 1886, the 8th Impressionist exhibition was taking place. His encounters with the Impressionist painter Camille Pissarro inspired him to study both Impressionist and Neo-Impressionist techniques, particularly the use of divided color. In this work, the influence is clearly visible in the bright segmented color areas and rhythmic brushstrokes, a vivid record of Van Gogh's exploration and learning during his time in Paris. Wow. The restaurants de la Sirène at Asnieres, 1887. Van Gogh's works, painted in Asnieres, reveals his experimental approach to color. His palette grew incredibly brighter, and the canvas began to open towards a world of light. In these vividly colored paintings, we can trace the mark of a painter exploring new forms of expression, his brush moving with energy and conviction. Damn. Goose, 1880. Van Gogh's shoes may appear at first glance to be a simple still life of worn footwear. Yet, this painting later became the subject of a major philosophical debate. In his 1936 essay, The Origin of the Work of Art, German philosopher Martin Heidegger argued that the painting reveals the truth of being, of a peasant woman, her very steps, the dampness of the earth, the hardship of labor. For Heidegger, a work of art does not merely represent something, it brings forth the deepest essence of what it depicts, its truth. In response, French philosopher Jacques Derrida offered a critical reading in The Truth of in Painting in 1728. He questioned Heidegger's assumption that the shoes belonged to a peasant woman, noting that the painting itself offers no definitive clue. The philosopher went further, even challenging whether the pair of shoes truly form of a pair at all, deconstructing the very foundation of Heidegger's interpretation. Derrida argued that the truth of an artwork is always shaped by narratives that surrounded it, what he called the paragon, a term borrowed from Kant meaning frame or border. The paragon not only separates the artwork from the outside world, but also helps construct its meaning. A painting of shoes, once worn and now isolated on a canvas, gains appearance of truth only when we tell a story like saying they belong to a peasant woman. That framing or bordering gives the image its significance. For the French philosopher, the meaning of a work does not arise solely from within the image, but from the context, language, and stories around it. In this way, Van Gogh's seemingly humble shoes opens up rich possibilities for interpretation. It invites us to reflect not only on the painting itself, but also on how we look at art and how meaning is always, in part, something we bring to it. Café Bistrot Limonite on the street Rue de Bucci. While living in Paris, Van Gogh developed a deep fascination with Japanese art, particularly ukiyo-e, which he passionately collected and copied. This painting is based on a wood block printed by Kaisei Eisen, reinterpreted with Van Gogh's own expressive brushwork. Vivid colors and bold lines dominate the composition, while the background unfolds with fascinating, fantastical Japanese motifs such as lotus flowers and cranes. Van Gogh projected his vision of an ideal world onto Japanese art, and that longing is strongly reflected in the piece. This work also appears in the lower right background gallery. The artisan Eisen pays the respect to the art. Ooh, some garden and Kamaido, Utagawa Hiroshige. Flowering Plum Orchid, 1880. Van Gogh based his work on a woodblock print by Utagawa Hiroshige. In contrast to the delicate and uniform colors of the original, he applied thick layers of paint and reinterpreted the image with bold brushstrokes. Decorative Chinese characters appear on both sides of the composition, though it is believed that Van Gogh did not understand their meaning. I will translate them right now using some powers. Original. Joey. We'll go back to this, I guess, in a moment, as we are approaching Le Perret Tanguy. This is a portrait of Tere Tanguy, a paint dealer who supported many then unknown artists such as Cézanne and Gauguin. Van Gogh was deeply grateful for his kindness and admired his way of life, which inspired him to paint this gentle and serene portrait. The background is decorated with Japanese ukiyo prints, reflecting Van Gogh's strong interest in Japanism. Interestingly, Pri Ngoy, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name too much, was not actually known to deal in Japanese prints, leading some to believe that Van Gogh portrayed him as a resident of Imaginate, Imaginate Japanese utopia. Kaffeetalmet abstinkt. This painting depicts a glass of green absinthe on a cafe table in Paris. Made from wormwood and anise, this high-proof spirit became a symbolic drink among 19th century artists and was even called a ticket to asylum. The work invites us to reflect on Van Gogh's days in Paris and the atmosphere surrounding the artist of the time. Walking outside. Hello there. Self-portrait as a painter. Van Gogh often painted himself partly because he couldn't afford to hire models, and partly in the tradition of the master painters he admired, many of whom left behind numerous self-portraits. In this work, he employs fine, closely spaced brushstrokes learned from impressionists, and uses complementary colors such as blue and orange, red and green to create a vivid visual resonance. It offers a glimpse into the moment and the techniques Van Gogh absorbed during his time in Paris were gradually becoming his own, pointing the way towards the unique use of color. So the translation of this is, if I'm correct, the right side column is most likely reference in Yoshiwara, the red light district in Edo, modern day Tokyo, while the left column points at Daikokuya, prefixing brothel in the district. More we know. And this is Gallery 3. As we are about to approach, I want to say thank you for listening so far, and I hope you're having a good time. I will see you in the next video.